Hi everyone, it's Beth from the West Dallas Public Library, and welcome to another episode of our Let's Go on Vacation book club. We're currently in the middle of a lovely trip to London, reading Where Is the Tower of London. We are on episode 4 of this trip. On chapter 8, Making Money. The tower also served as the mint, the place where the country's money was made. It was sensible to put the mint in the Tower of London. Coins were made of gold and silver. It was a good idea to keep all that precious metal in a very safe place while it was waiting to be made into coins. Making coins was hard work. The first metal was melted and made into round, flat discs. Then a man put the blank disc on top of a die. This was a kind of mold with a picture carved on it. He put another carved die on top of the blank disc. Then the man hit the stack with a hammer, hard enough to drive an impression of the pictures into the metal. So that was how they literally just sandwiched them together to get that indent on the coin. It was important to be sure that all the coins were made with exactly the right amount of gold or silver. So every year there was a trial. It was just like any other trial with a courtroom and a judge. But the defendant that was being tried was the coins, not a person. The case was decided by a jury made up of experts in metal who tested the coin's weight. This trial still goes on today. King Henry VIII spent a lot of money, so he needed more coins to be made. He decided to make coins out of copper coated with silver or gold. The coins would still be worth the same amount that they had been before, but it would take less precious metal to make them, so the king could make more coins for the same amount of silver or gold. All the coins had Henry's picture stamped on them. After they were in use for a while, the precious metal rubbed off and showed the copper underneath. So people gave Henry the nickname Old Copper Nose. English coins were very thin, and the edges weren't perfectly even. People used to clip tiny bits of silver off the edges and save them up. When they had enough silver, they would melt it down to create a fake new coin. Clipping coins was a serious crime. It's the same, it's making counterfeit money or fake money. That's a big crime. In the 1660s, the mint started to use machines to make coins. This was faster and easier. It also meant the edges of the coins were more even. The thin edges could be covered with a pattern of little grooves. That way, no one could clip the edges off without being noticed. So if you look at, I think like a quarter has tiny little grooves on the edges, if you look at our money. Special edge making machines were used. Everyone who worked in the mint had to swear not to tell anyone how these machines worked. That way, no one could make fake coins. The king had all the old coins in the country returned to the mint and remade into the new ones. This complicated work was overseen by Sir Isaac Newton. Newton is famous as one of the greatest scientists who ever lived, but for many years he was also head of the mint. The mint stayed at the tower until 1810. Then it needed more space, so it was moved to Tower Hill, just outside the tower. Chapter 9, Crown Jewels. Gold and silver coins weren't the only valuable things stored at the tower. The crown jewels were also kept there. The crown jewels were used during the ceremony when a ruler was crowned. They included the crown itself, scepters, and orbs that the king or queen would hold, and many other objects. Everything was made of gold and silver and thickly covered with precious stones. So the crown jewels were not only very beautiful, they were also very, very valuable. For many years, the crown jewels were kept in Westminster Abbey, the church where England rulers were crowned. They belonged to England's rulers, but only while they were reigning. They couldn't sell them, and they weren't allowed to take them out of Westminster Abbey. Only the jewels that the ruler owned personally were kept in the tower. In the 1600s, England had a revolution. The king was overthrown, and for several years the country was ruled by Puritans. These were the same group of strict Protestants that would help settle North America. The Puritans didn't believe in kings or in fancy, expensive decorations. In 1649, they cut off the head of King Charles I. Then they had all the crown jewels broken up. The metal was melted and made into coins. Almost the only thing from the crown jewels that survives from before the English Civil War is one silver spoon used for pouring sacred oil. In 1660, King Charles II was restored to the throne. He had to have all new crown jewels made so he could be crowned. From then on, the crown jewels were kept in the tower, where they would be safe. Or so people thought. Dun dun dun. In 1671, a man named Thomas Blood almost managed to steal the crown jewels. He made friends with the keeper of the jewels and got himself invited to dinner. He asked if he could see the jewels. Then he hit the keeper with a wooden mallet and knocked him out. He put some of the crown jewels in a bag and even stuffed one piece down his pants. Fortunately, he was captured on his way out of the tower and put in prison. Later, when Thomas was taken before King Charles II, the king was so amused by his boldness and cleverness that he didn't even punish him. He even gave him his own estate in Ireland. Well, that's ridiculous. The crown jewels can be seen in the tower today. They are on display in a special building. The largest clear-cut diamond in the world, the Cullinan I, is set into the scepter. It can also be removed and worn separately. The diamond is almost 2.5 inches long, about the size of a chicken's egg, and worth about $400 million. The Koh-i-Noor, one of the world's most famous diamonds, is also in the collection, set into a crown. The Koh-i-Noor has a long history of being owned by various rulers. One legend says that whoever owns this diamond will rule the world, but only a woman can wear the diamond. It is bad luck for a man. Okay, I'm going to look up pictures. I'll post pictures of the crown jewels in the description on our YouTube page, and they'll link out. There'll be links that you can see, so you can see pictures of the jewels, but pretty nice. Okay, so a little blurb here. Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. So Queen Elizabeth II is the current Queen of England. She's still alive and she's Queen of England right now. The last time the full set of crown jewels was used was in 1953, when Elizabeth II was crowned Queen of England. She had the crown changed a little to fit her better. The head size was made smaller and the arches of the crown were lowered. She thought this made it look more feminine. In between coronations, the crown is used once every year. The Queen wears it when she opens Parliament, the group that governs England. Okay, Chapter 10, the Tutors. This is a very interesting part of English history. For more than 100 years, starting in 1485, The rulers of England came from a family called the Tutors. It is because of the Tudors that most people today think of the Tower of London as a place of murder, torture, and execution. The Tudors didn't live in the tower. It was no longer in good enough shape to serve as the main royal palace. But they sent many prisoners there. Henry VIII, in particular, had more people killed there than any other king. He ruled from 1509 to 1547. Of all of Henry's victims, the most famous are two of his wives. He had 6 wives altogether. English school children used to learn this little rhyme. Divorce, beheaded, died. Divorce, beheaded, survived, to remember what happened to the various wives of King Henry VIII. His first wife was Catherine of Aragon. He was unhappy because she had only one child, who lived through infancy, and it was a girl. He wanted a son to be king after him. Then he fell in love with a lady-in-waiting named Anne Boleyn. He wanted to divorce Catherine and marry Anne, but the Catholic Church did not allow divorce then. The Pope would not let him end his marriage. So, Henry said the Pope was no longer the head of church in England. Henry was. He was king. From then on, the church in England has been Anglican, not Catholic. And all because Henry wanted to marry, not my dog, all because Henry wanted to marry Anne Boleyn. As he prepared for his wedding, Henry had the tower fixed up in Anne's honor. He added the 4 onion-shaped domes of the White Tower that are still there today. Unfortunately, Anne didn't have a son either, only a daughter. And Henry found that Anne was hot-tempered and independent. So he fell in love with another lady-in-waiting, Jane Seymour. Now Henry wanted to get rid of Anne so he could marry Jane. He accused Anne of being a witch. He also said she had been unfaithful to him. He had one of the men he suspected thrown into the tower and tortured. The prisoner was forced to say that he and Anne had a romantic relationship. He was also forced to accuse several other men. Anne and the men were all locked up in the tower and sentenced to death. Usually, executions took place on Tower Hill. Crowds of people would gather to watch. But as a special favor to his wife, Henry decided that her execution would be private, inside the tower walls. Before the execution, Anne was told that she would feel little pain. She answered, "I have heard the executioner is very good, and I have a little neck." Anne was praying as her head was struck off. When the executioner held the head up to show it to people watching, it was said that her lips could still be seen, moving in prayer. 10 days after Anne died, Henry married Jane. Jane gave him the son and heir he wanted, but she died soon after giving birth. Henry's next wife was a foreign princess, Anne of Cleves. He had only seen a painting of her before their marriage. When he met her in person, he thought she was so ugly that he decided to end the marriage as soon as he could. What a guy. Next, he fell in love with Catherine Howard. She was only 16, and Henry was already 49. Ugh. After they were married for a while, Henry began to think that Catherine was unfaithful to him. She too was sent to the tower and beheaded. The night before Catherine Howard died, she asked for the block she would be executed on to be brought to her room in the tower. She wanted to practice putting her neck on it. Only Henry's last wife, Catherine Parr, managed to outlive him. Ghosts. Many people have reported seeing ghosts in the tower. That's not surprising given how many grisly deaths have been there. The ghost seen most often is Anne Boleyn. She glides through the tower with her head tucked under her arm. Visitors also claim to have encountered the ghosts of the two little princes who were killed in the tower. They are often heard playing in the garden. A countess who was supposed to be beheaded in 1541 escaped and tried to run away. Some people say they have seen her ghost still running. The most unusual of all is a ghostly bear that once attacked one of the guards. It is believed to be Old Martin, a grizzly bear that was a gift from Canada. All right, so that's where we'll stop today. We'll pick up tomorrow with Tudor prisoners. So we're not done with the Tudors yet. All right, I will see you tomorrow for our last day in our trip to London. Bye.